Welcome to Association Chat, where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host of Association Chat, Kiki L'Italian, and before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you to the Patreon patrons for Association Chat. You know, you supporters keep this show going. You keep it rolling. And so for that, I want to say thank you. To become a Patreon patron, just visit patreon.com/association chat. And periodically throughout the show, I will be putting that up at the bottom of the screen. If you're listening to this later, just remember this: patreon.com/association chat. It's that simple. All right. So today we're taking a look at your AMS and we're looking at non-dues revenue. We all want a little bit more of that. Am I right? For many of you, you may look at your AMS and say, wow, this has all of this information. Maybe I could improve my AMS. Maybe I need to go through a change. But maybe you don't. Maybe you have all you need already. And so for today, we're going to be approaching this question. We're going to be approaching this idea of non-dues revenue, looking at what you already may have. The world has suddenly changed, but should your AMS? Maybe not. And so today, to talk about this, we have some special guests. And so right now, I'm adding them to the screen. Hello, Owens. Hello, Rudy. Hello, Tom.
Hi.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi there. Hi.
It's such a, I mean, I love bringing people up. I'm trying to make it flow a little bit more smoothly, but it's very difficult to do all of this and sort of be pulling on all of the strings behind the scenes. So welcome to Association Chat. It has been such an incredible, strange year, and so many different association executives have questions about, now that we have to look at things like the way that we hold our events, and we can't do things the way that we used to do them. How can we up our non-dues revenue? How can we take what we have and make it go further? And what really intrigued me about this topic is that, a lot of times the AMS, Association Management System, for those of you who may not be familiar, the AMS is sometimes one of the biggest expenditures that an association can have. So if you don't have to change it, that's a good thing. My first question is this: why does the topic of non-dues revenue and the way that we use our AMSs, why is it such an important one for associations today?
Well, Kiki, I think that is a very good question. And, it's funny because COVID has changed delivery for associations and for everyone. And you talk about you'd like Association Chat to be smoother. You've had more than 15 years of practice doing the virtual forum, whereas many of us have, now just have a few months under our belt. But what hasn't changed is the value add that associations offer. I always think of associations as communities of people who collectively understand an entire industry like no one else does. And so if you think about finding that right person who has that niche understanding of exactly how their piece of it works through, years of experience. Maybe they're certified, maybe they take regular examinations in the subject matter, maybe they have a network of professionals, maybe they have special access to documentation that nobody else has. And when you think of that, that's a real advantage of an association, and that has not changed. Mm-hmm. What's changed is the delivery of that information. I can't get that through social media. I can't just go to some regular leadership conference. I can't call up my competitor and ask them. Associations are the single source. But with fewer conferences, a lot of the value of those associations remains locked away deep inside the AMS. If I already know the last name of the person I need to talk to, I might have a leg up. But even then, associations have traditionally used in-person conferences to make those connections. And now we have to think a little bit outside of that box. And that's where non-dues revenue and getting more use out of our AMS really comes to play. That's the good news, really. We've adapted. We've learned some new ways to run our associations without in-person meetings. And now that in-person meetings are slowly coming back, we have some new tools in our toolbox that unlock that information. Alternative delivery mechanisms that can still provide that very specific information when you need it most. A lot of these tools link to your AMS.
Yeah, and I saw a shout out from Cameron, who posted hello Kiki earlier from YouTube. Hi Cameron. Hey, I'm so glad that you're watching. If you have any questions about AMSs or the way that you can actually approach using your AMS to generate more non-dues revenue, be sure to ask them while we're here. All right, so my next question is about that. You know, a lot of what we look at when we look at AMSs, you know, we're talking about the way that we use our data. How are we using our data? And so, you know, one of the approaches that you talk about with empowered margins. I got that right? Yes, empowered margins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
One of the approaches is this magical use of the API. Can you explain to me about APIs and why we need to understand APIs more? And that's for anyone who wants to take a stab at that. Owens, this could be your moment. Rudy, it might be for you.
Yes, APIs basically will help us to interact with the AMSs. AMS, so we will.
Well, I would say that with APIs, you know, they're great to integrate with. However, their availability plays a vital role in providing that seamless experience that users are looking for. So you're using an application programmer interface to get at that data that I mentioned before that was locked away.
Yeah.
You can use an API to unlock it and connect with another database, some other platform. You might use it to connect with your accounting system. You might use it to connect with your learning management system, your event platform, your web conferencing, a whole variety of different set of experiences that you can give your user. But the key is that they have to be seamless. Salesforce had a report lately called The State of the Connected Customer. Mm-hmm. And it said that 70% consider connected experiences like seamless handoffs between departments or engagement based on earlier interactions to be a key factor in acquiring and renewing customers they were talking about, but we can translate that to members in our community. So having that seamless environment is very important, and that's why the APIs have really changed the game. They've improved a lot in recent years. And Owens, I didn't mean to cut you off on that, but I wanted to jump in with that.
No, I had a technical glitch. Sorry about that. So yes, like you said, in the recent years, AMSs have increased their capabilities, and they have started as small, but have added with an added focus on several aspects like member management, security, analytics, and reporting. Also, e-commerce, and like you explained, the system integration. So seamless integrations with the other systems, with the AMS. So for that user experience, API will definitely is the key. So we need to use APIs to interact between those systems and the AMSs.
Yeah, and I see a question. This is excellent. Thank you, Owens. I see a question coming in from Cameron. What does AMS stand for again? And this is actually, I'm so glad that you asked this question, because back in the day, a long, long time ago, when I used to work for an association in the very, very beginning, I remember that everyone referred to the AMS as something different. It was the database, or it was called Q, it was called different things. And for different associations, you can spend all day working in a database and never even know exactly that it's this AMS, which is Association Management System. And that is the overall system that is incorporating all of this different type of data. So, it's interesting. Yeah. And assuming you're talking about something like customer relationship management software. Yes, absolutely. And in fact, many associations, many AMSs are built off of things like to work with like Salesforce and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So. But it's an association management software is a little bit more than a customer relationship management system. It actually incorporates this, in some of the AMSs that are out there. They have a CRM, they have a CMS, they have an LMS, and they have they have a number of different systems built into them. So it's not just a CRM, but it is built off of a CRM, because all your members, they come into the CRM, they go through the pipeline, the prospect, the entire process of becoming a member in the CRM. But then once they are into the CRM, these members have to interact with the learning management system, or your shopping cart for that matter, to buy stuff, or monitor their credits and their certifications on it as well. So it becomes a certification management system as well. So I mean, there is a number of components to an AMS which goes above and beyond a CRM. So although there are a number of systems that are based off of CRMs like Salesforce, the AMS is actually a little, much more bigger, I would say.
Yeah, it's a little bit more broad. I think it's interesting. It's kind of your cornerstone for your online interaction. And when you think about how membership in an association has changed, it used to be you signed up for the association and you went to the single annual meeting that they had,
right,
and you received a print magazine in the mail. And that was what your membership was. Maybe you get an insurance discount or something too.
I remember those days.
But now everything is, what kind of virtual access to information can I get that I can't get anywhere else? And that's really through your AMS and through the APIs that connect to it, the application programmer interfaces.
Right. And so, a lot of us have heard about what APIs can do, but, this idea of what can they do with the AMS, how can we incorporate them? Recently, APIs went through a change too, right? And so can you talk to me a little bit about some of those most recent changes, and why maybe associations that had looked at this in the past, why they may need to give it another look today?
There definitely have been a lot of changes. They've been in terms of security, member management, analytics, reporting, e-commerce, AI, system integration. Just to take one of those, security, I would say, as associations have become increasing targets for cyber attacks, AMSs are trying to shore up security with two-factor authentication, login IP ranges, adjustable timeouts, custom domains, encryption protocols, tiered access, things like that. So that would be one reason alone to think about what kind of upgrades do we need to do to maintain the AMS in 2021 as opposed to 2016 or 2018 even. I mean, the world is different.
The world is different. What are some of the ways that associations have successfully used their AMSs to create new streams of non-dues revenue using APIs?
Well, I mean, I would say, some of the low-hanging fruit for associations involves organizing events and webinars, annual conferences for members, where you can display, maybe some of your e-commerce items, education programs, certification. I mean, I know of, one of the associations that we work with is a standards body, and they make now about a little less than $2 million a year by just providing access to their standards
Standards.
database
Wow.
through a product we have called Empowered Expertise. But that's just making that data available because, again, they're leveraging the fact that they're the only game in town. You can't get it anywhere else. And
See,
that's
I mean, I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, that makes up for some of the regular, they used to get a lot more money out of their annual meeting. And while they're still trying to get back to that, they realize that one of the main value adds that they offer is that vital standards information. So how do we make that super accessible? We're not talking about, it's no longer good enough to say, well, you can go into an internal search and maybe the document you want will come up and maybe it won't, and maybe it'll be in the right format and maybe it won't. Let's get our act together on that. Let's provide information on the standards committee. What's the next committee that's meeting? Who's certified in it? When are those certifications expiring? What kind of documents have already been approved? What documents are in process right now? Providing that kind of detailed information on your mobile phone, wherever you are, that's really important. And that's what I think some of these associations are really accessing now.
So what are some of the first? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Also, yes, also with this COVID time, a lot of AMSs expected decline in the non-dues revenue, as everyone globally is impacted by this pandemic. So in this context, like selling white papers or like digital products or standards like um, so these are a great channel of having like a great non-dues revenue as well. And the one of the happening thing is the virtual conferencing. So previously, like associations used to organize the webinars and the conferences, in-person conferences, but COVID actually taught a great lesson. They learned to do virtually, and AMSs have learned to do or evolving to do those virtually as well. What does that lead to integration? So AMSs can seamlessly integrate with the virtual conferencing webinar platforms like Zoom, BigMarker, Social 27, or like GoToWebinar. So a person can, like a attendee can have a seamless user experience between registering in their AMS and attending their events. So these are a few, capabilities that help generating non-dues revenue as well.
Or sponsorships. We have one association we work with is using. We have a product called Empowered Directory, and they're using that to get profile information to all of their members, but it's sponsored so that they don't have to, they can offset some of the costs of doing that and actually have a separate revenue stream while giving vendors that work with that industry a little bit more mind share about, when folks are looking for particular expertise.
Yeah, or for that matter, even benchmarking data. So within the industry, being able to see where you stand against the industry benchmarks. So collecting data from multiple members and then creating standard benchmark data is also something that is those reports are used as non-dues revenue.
Yeah, I think it's so important. All of these different points that you've shared have been really valuable for, I think, the typical association executive to think about right now, because, along with trying to figure out, well, what are maybe some new ways or new products we have. So this focus on, Owens, you talked about it, like making things seamless so that they happen in a smooth sort of way where maybe it's a matter of being able to collect data in a way that's much smoother than was done previously. And, I think everyone's concerned about making sure that they show up and they provide a great experience, no matter whether it's through a survey that they're giving, or whether it's through collecting data, or whether it's an event. People are trying to show that not only are they able to provide a good experience, but also that they've thought through this and that they're competent in what they're doing. Association executives are not just doing all of these things to serve the members, although that's really important. They're also doing it to serve, their board, and to show that people can rely on their expertise. And so one thing I talk about a lot is community. Recently, Facebook did a research with a group on community, and they said community is a collection of people in which they receive a sense of belonging, connection, and a feeling of safety. They give trust and investment over time. And I bring that up during this discussion because it is providing that sense of belonging, connection, and that feeling of safety that's so critical for the community that we find in most associations. So with this quote in mind, I was curious on your thoughts on how some of this work can help association executives to provide that feeling of safety in the way that they are serving their members. Does anyone want to speak to that?
Well, I'll give it a stab.
Okay.
I'm not
I didn't warn you I was
going
to ask this, but it's just like, well, we're here.
No, I think that sense of, as you put it, belonging, connection, and safety is very important. That's really the difference between an association that you pay your dues to, but you just kind of want what you want, and you don't really feel like you're part of that community, and they're more of a vendor to you. It's more of a transactional relationship. Yeah, a service provider. Whereas what you're talking about is community building. And I think that, again, that AMS has all of the ingredients that you need to build that community if you can just unlock them out from there.
Yeah.
One of those capabilities, Tom, is AMSs have this capability of doing surveys, collecting surveys. So we can use this feature to send a form or request feedback from the members, and then based on that, you can just take the phone and call them up and address their questions. So there are ways to connect to the members and then make them feel belong, over a period of time. So I wanted to share that.
It's good you brought that up. In fact, the last time Kiki had me on her show, we were talking about surveys and using AI to kind of get at the heart of what people wanted in their community. And once they were participating in that, they had the sense that they were helping to build things. And then that migrates you not from a transactional relationship, but now you're in a real community relationship. And that makes all the difference because you feel like you have a stake in the direction that it's going.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what your members are expecting, and then you can serve in that direction as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what are some of the questions that someone needs to ask when they want to get started? Say they haven't really investigated this fully, but they have, an AMS like your membership or something like that, and they're working with them. What are some of the questions that they should ask to get started?
uh, Basically, to get started, definitely we they need to look at the data inventory and some personas about how members and non-members might use the data they have, and then consider how they would want to access it. So through like Tom mentioned, through a mobile device or via a login or at a point of purchase. So in all those scenarios, then they can consider what APIs the AMS offers, and then see if they could use those APIs to fulfill the analysis that they have made. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would add a little bit to that, and I would say there is the ability, the association or any organization, they should first identify the different member types they have.
Mhm.
And member types itself would mean individual members. It could mean business owners who are specific type of members. Their needs are different. So who are they really serving? That defining that member type set is very important, because that allows the association to not only organize the data based on the type of service they're going to provide each type of member, but it also allows the data to be segregated in a way and in a manner so that the AMS itself can be automated, and it can be set up in such a way that it is able to serve those needs efficiently.
Mhm.
So if we were to talk about your membership, the ability to define these member types is a very important first step that we do when we set up someone on your membership. And then being able to say, oh, okay, in addition to, so an individual member may be interested in certifications. So setting up the LMS, the learning management system, in a manner which is suitable to the individual, or setting up the events platform so that we can actually integrate webinars into the YM events, is something that can be done seamlessly, and it can be automated. I would look at the member types as being
Mhm.
defined. The first, the second would be the kind of services you want to offer these member types, and creating the cross section of or creating the data structure so that you say, okay, this is the member type, these are the services. And then once you have defined those services, then you have the two important items to go out into the market, look at all the AMSs, and say, oh, okay, these are the services, these are the member types I'm serving, and so then pick whichever works for you the best.
And I think to Owen's point about the data inventory, that's a vital step too, because a lot of
Mhm.
associations don't have a really clear handle on all of the data that they have.
That's
They
true.
know like the top 5 things that people are always asking for, but really associations have, in addition to financial data and membership data and
Yeah,
industry data and content, and a lot of times those separate forms of data are siloed away under
Mhm.
different people. And if I work in one part of the organization, I don't even know who owns the data for something else. And that
Well,
should be.
sorry, I was just gonna say, and I think that that's actually why some people might tune into this and want to find out more, because there are a lot of associations that, even larger associations where, if this hasn't been a priority in the past, they may look at what they have and say, I look, Kiki, I don't even know where to begin, because I know who my members are. I know the information that we're collecting, but I'm not sure what we can do with it that we're not already doing. And it's almost as if, like, I can imagine that it's frustrating on for all of you to be on your side to say, I can give you those answers. I can tell you where you would have value hiding in your data if I just knew what you're working with,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would challenge that person. I would say, take out a blank sheet of paper or open up a new Google Doc and stare at the blinking cursor until you can write down 25 use cases for
Ooh.
data. Just force yourself to brainstorm. I'm not getting up and going to lunch until I
Ooh.
have 25 use cases for my data. And I can almost guarantee you'll find new ways to use that same data that you hadn't considered before.
Yeah, Karen says that's the hard work, managing the data. Yeah,
Yeah.
managing the data. Yeah, and then even managing the data, then figuring out what else. What else can we do? I love this idea of putting your brain to work and saying, and actually, just a piece of paper. Like, let's not even be technical at all. Let's like totally old school. We're going to write this down and like force yourself to write down these ideas. 25, you said? I think that's a great start,
and
Oh, go
and then
ahead.
once you do that, then you start to think about, well, how would this person use this data? Would they want to use it on a mobile device because they'd be in
Yeah.
a particular situation where they don't have access to their desktop as easily? And that starts to get you thinking of the different opportunities that you have to provide that data to them when and where they need it.
Now, is there ever a time when you come across someone who has an AMS and it's not possible to do anything with it? I mean, I know that this should work with most AMSs, but is there ever a time when it's like, we can't,
We haven't found any experiences like that.
Yeah.
I used to have
Not yet. That's good news for everyone.
I used to have a CTO that was fond of saying that he could do anything we wanted. He just needed unlimited time and budget.
Me too. Yeah, so basically, no matter what kind of technology you're working with, as far as your AMS, you can make something work. You can do something with it. Now, APIs have changed over time. There are more capabilities, more possibilities that are there. What do you think as far as what you've seen with the highest return on investment for folks? We talked a little bit about low-hanging fruit before, but is there a particular area that you would nudge the association executive to look in when it comes to, first places to look where they could actually see a better ROI for their investment in this process?
Well, for me, I would say work with your membership directory.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's the people that are the key. It's their knowledge, their experience, and if you can make that more accessible to other members within your organization, then it multiplies. It has a multiplier effect, and everybody gets smarter. But the key is making that information accessible. So, like for us, we have Empowered Directory, and that basically pulls out the data out of your AMS and puts it into whatever format you want, in a mobile environment or whatever. You can set up a buyer's guide if you don't already have one, and that's where the sponsorships come in. And then you can easily just, we're one organization that's paying for Empowered Directory by going out and getting one sponsor. And
Right.
that sponsor is going to get that exposure that they're looking for. And now they're going to be able to go out to their entire membership at their upcoming meeting and saying, we are now providing this huge benefit to you that you didn't even have before, because they had a paper directory that they would, busily mail out to people and update it, methodically once a year and so forth. And that's just too old school.
I think a lot of times there's a danger of associations underestimating or undervaluing how much people, their members, want to be able to know more about the other members. I really do. I think it's always been like that. and
Sure. One other way, Kiki, one other way is also about your point of belongingness. So in that, especially in these times where people are isolating or not willing to meet in person, so the collaboration, to encourage the collaboration and have people come in and onto one platform. So organizing those webinars and events for the members, and have them join and collaborate with each other is also one great way of helping members to know each other and also learn together. So for that, we have these out of the box solutions that we created, which can be easily spun up, and then as quick as 2 weeks. So these webinars seamlessly integrate with the AMSs. So that is one great way as well, in collaborating and helping members to grow together and know more.
Yeah. I think it's such a key part of, what associations are even here to do, how they're built, why they are constructed to exist, is not just serving this mission, but serving the people who serve whatever that mission happens to be for the organization. And, I think that we fail as an association. I think we fail when we fail to connect people with those other people that are part of associations, because most of the time they're belonging to it so that they can, make important connections, whether it's through learning or business or something that's going to help push them further along than they would have done on their own. And so I do think it's so important to investigate different ways that you can really amplify what you're doing in that regard, and there are so many different ways to do it. But I think it is something that every single association executive, no matter what your role is, whether it's membership or you're the CTO or whatever it is, you should be thinking about, how are we doing this for our members?
Yeah.
And
least but not last but not least, I wanted to add, there are some associations which are nonprofit. So I would say, sending newsletters on a monthly basis, and setting up ads about their AMSs. No, it doesn't hurt to let members know about their needs, and they come and collaborate and sharing that. So I think it's a great way for a nonprofit organization to put in the needs of the organization. So through newsletters, it's also
all right.
There's I think about AI and how that can be harnessed now. I mean, it was 20 years ago that Amazon pioneered recommendation engines. And we have to ask ourselves as association leaders, are we updating our members on what members like you have purchased? Are we using AI to help predict answers to member questions and extending service hours, or and e-commerce itself? What are we selling? Our studies? Are we selling our information, and who knows, t-shirts and anything else that are relevant to our community? Are we making those available to people? And this is all part and parcel of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I do remember those early days where we were all saying, well, we can't all be Amazon. Do you remember? And like now, what excuse do we have, right? Because we've had so much time with the technology.
20
And
years,
so,
yeah.
I mean, it's evolved so much. It feels like, well, we can't really argue that we haven't had the ability to develop this stuff as much anymore when so much time has passed, right? Things have gotten easier for us.
Yes, standing on the shoulders of giants, I think it was the point.
That is the point. Well, okay, so what's on the horizon? If we look at what people are able to do now, and I do want to go ahead and say, if you haven't done it already, anyone who's watching, anyone who's listening to this later, empoweredmargins.com. Go take a look. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. You can find more information there. And then I'm going to ask, other places where they can go to look for different types of information. But, we've been talking a lot about what we have as far as capabilities right now. What do you see coming up? What do you see in the immediate future? Where are things headed?
So more and more out of the box solutions. So we are looking at the productization of these solutions to reduce the implementation time. So I think everyone is actually moving toward. I see in few areas like virtual conferences and sponsorship areas. So we see more. Like we'll be seeing more advances in those areas.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, you have more and more companies. I mean, at Empowered Margins, we're doing it, but then there are other companies as well that are creating custom APIs to improve access to the data. I mean, take member management, for example. With better data integration, you can determine more precisely what membership benefits are of the greatest value to your members. And that's going to remove the guesswork. And we're seeing a lot of associations who are surprised to find out that various revenue assumptions that they've stuck to over the years weren't as on the money as they thought they were.
Yeah.
Now that they've actually got access to the data. So that's just one example.
Okay, Rudy, anything from you?
Yeah. So I think there is going to be more interconnectedness in the horizon. If you see, I mean, AMSs will need to be connected with other systems, and they will not be operating in silos or self-contained silos. And this interconnectedness with other systems will bring about almost democratization of the data and the ability for these ecosystems to develop. Ecosystems in which the members will be able to innovate with each other on ideas, basically build upon each other's ideas. Empowered directory is just one step in just allowing members to get connected with each other. That would be the first step. Then we would like to see innovation to foster with these connections. And so basically, I think the next step on the horizon would be the connections that would arise internally within the associations, but also across technologies between AMSs and other systems as well, so that there is more innovation coming out of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
I remember writing for Associations Now one time a story about an association. I can't remember now who they were. They had to do with glass blowing, glass technology in general. But they had all of this data, and they realized it was valuable to people outside of their membership, and that they could start to sell that by just providing, doing an annual survey of their members, anonymizing the data, and then sending it out, for very, pretty pricey books that, the manufacturers really needed, and they weren't even in that industry, so they weren't going to become members.
That's fascinating. I can totally see where that would be the case in a lot of different associations where, the information that they have, the data they have would be very useful to others.
Yeah, outside of their vertical. And that is what Rudy is saying, with things becoming more interconnected. We're just going to see that more and more.
Yeah. Oh, if only we could just get people to understand what an association was, then can you imagine what would happen?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So this has been a fascinating discussion, but before I let you go, one of the things that I do with my guests is I've been asking a question of the week, the question of the week that we ask in the association private community on a weekly basis. And these private community questions, the question of the week changes week to week. So, I was curious to find out if you would be willing to play with me a little bit and answer the question of the week. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes, of course.
All right. And before I let this slip by, Cameron said, I would love to see more professional association platforms merged up with LinkedIn and other social platforms. So, very good point, Cameron. Yes.
Microsoft would love to see that too.
Okay, so here is the question, and this is actually this is a relatively simple one for you. So you kind of got off easy on this one. And that is, are you a morning person or a night owl? Are you a morning person or a night owl?
An easy one.
It's an easy one, yeah? Okay, Rudy, you first.
It's a morning person for sure.
Yeah. How early do you get? Is it every?
I wake up very early, so I wake up around 4:30. So that's definitely a morning person. I got to do my run. So
you gotta do your run 4:30. That is early. So have you always been like that? Have you always been a morning person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that explains something for me, because I often get Skypes from Rudy around that time, and I'm a morning person too, and I'm used to not getting messages from people at that point. But as I started out a morning person on the East Coast, I moved to Colorado, kind of kept those hours.
Yes.
And then as I've started to work with more folks internationally, I realized that America starts its day very late in the cycle. And so the more I reach into Europe and Asia, the earlier it gets. So I'm not sure if that's going to have a happy ending eventually.
I know.
So far, so good.
I was going to say, Tom, I see emails from you and it's 8 a.m. Eastern time. And so I'm like, what's he doing? I don't know. When's he sleeping?
Well, tell all of your East Coast colleagues to sleep in more, and you won't have to worry about it as much.
Owens, what about you?
Yes, Tom being a morning person, that actually plays so well with me, because I work with him, and I by nature I'm a night owl. Of course, it is limited. Like I want to, as much as I want to be awake in the night, because it's very calm and no distractions, and I can focus on. I can finish off a lot of things during that time. So yes, night owl. I prefer to be.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
So the sun never sets on Owens and Tom's collaboration.
Yeah.
That's true.
It never does. Always ongoing. Yes. And Cameron, of course, who wins the award for being the most interactive, responsive viewer today. Yay. He says, I don't like going to sleep, but I love being awake, rested, and ready to go early in the morning. Yes, I love that. I love that. So we have all of our bases covered here, which is good to know. But yeah, I'm a morning person. I've always been a morning person. And so heaven help us, we're going to conquer the world eventually, right? So I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you for joining me today and talking about this really important topic, because, you can't ever get away from trying to figure out how to diversify the way you're bringing in your revenue, associations included. And this is a very important topic for all of us to learn from. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes,
And I
thank you so
did.
much, Kiki.
Oh, thank you. And I am throwing the empoweredmargins.com. Tom, is there anywhere else that they should check out? Any place online that they should check out besides empoweredmargins.com? Can they reach out to you?
Yeah. Anyone's welcome to reach out to me. You can just reach me at
Reach out to
Thomas at
Rudy, reach out to Owens.
you can just reach me at Thomas at empoweredmargins.com.
Yeah.
Other resources online. I mean, there's a lot out there that you can, YouTube has a lot of information. You can ask your AMS service rep for help because, they're dealing with these questions day in and day out, and they can save you a lot of time. We have a blog at empoweredmargins.com that we're adding to more and more. And then your association colleagues, a lot of people, they're surprised by the fact that, oh, we're not inventing the wheel for the first time. Other people have gone through exactly this change. And that's one of the reasons why we have communities like this at Association Chat. So I'm really happy that you've been able to keep this up, Kiki. This
Also on our website, there is a one complete page that is dedicated to the integrations and like what all the brands that we work with as well. So if you would like to go and take a look, it is called associations. So
yeah.
Okay, and I probably just shocked all of you, but I put in the chat if you're watching on YouTube right now or Facebook or on Periscope, then you'll see a way that you can reach out directly. If you have additional questions, you want to find out more about your AMS and how you can get more out of it, how you can squeeze dollars out of your AMS, then go ahead and do that. And you can find out more about empowered margins and the way that they work with associations if you look at, and I'm going to put this right up here at the top, empoweredmargins.com/empowered-associations. Yes. And so please do make sure that you check that out. Thanks again, Rudy, Owens, Tom, for being here. And I definitely want to have you back so we can get an update and find out more about how you've been working with associations. So thank you so much. Oh, and I'm kicking everybody off. This was a fantastic interview. I am so thankful to Tom and Rudy and Owens for being here today. If you want to reach out to them, I hope that you do. Reach out to them. Look in the show notes if you're listening to this later for the links, for the email addresses. And with that, I hope you continue to grow in your curiosity and ask questions every day. Because as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.